deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all.
Quite remarkably, they managed to put Jesus on trial 3 times during that dreadful night. The first trial was before the Sanhedrin, and we find that in Luke chapter 22, verse 67. And they led him away to their council, and they said, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe. But from now on the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." So they all said, "Are you the Son of God then?" And he said to them, "You say that I am." Then they said, "What further testimony do we need? We have heard it ourselves from his own lips." The Sanhedrin asked him 2 questions. The first was, "Are you the Christ?" Now the answer to that was not necessarily blasphemous. Someone was going to come and be the Messiah one day. They all believed that. The second question was a whole different level. It was, "Are you the Son of God?" And they knew, and Jesus knew, that if he answered yes to that question, that would be blasphemy, unless he happened to be the Son of God. So how did Jesus respond? Firstly, I noticed he was very aggressive. When they said, "Are you the Son of God?" he said, "If I told you, you wouldn't even believe me." And then he was evasive, or at least enigmatic or equivocal. His answers could have meant one of 2 things. He would not allow them to pin him down. In a word, Jesus was infuriating. To infuriate means to evoke fury, and he was highly successful in doing that. One of the best gifts Wendy and I were ever given was in 1990, a trip to Europe and Oberammergau and the Passion Play. And we sat in that amazing auditorium where 6,000 people sit under cover, but the actors are out in the open. The play begins with Jesus casting out the money changers from the temple. This picture is actually from the very performance we were at in 1990. And then the play moves on and comes to the trial before the Sanhedrin. Now this picture is the picture they have been using to advertise Oberammergau 2020, but it's now been postponed to at least 2022 because of the current virus. Now, I know my Bible pretty well. I was steeped in it since a child, and I thought I knew the Easter story. But when I sat in that theater at Oberammergau and watched it unfold on the stage, for the first time I realized how very provocative Jesus was. It was almost as if he deliberately wanted them to come and get him. And it wasn't the least surprising, as I watched it on stage, that they wanted to kill him. He was so infuriating and would not give a straight answer. So what is the answer? Is Jesus the Son of God? Interestingly, the Bible never gives a straight answer to that. You will find no verse that says Jesus is God. The closest you come is John 1:1, which says the Word was God. But even there, it's the Word. It doesn't specifically say Jesus. It's a little enigmatic. And yet, as I read the Bible, especially the Gospels, I come to the unmistakable conclusion that the writers thoroughly believed he was God. Look at Matthew's Gospel, for example. Chapters 1 to 9 are basically a treatise proving that Jesus is God. In chapters 1 and 2, we see his authority over history. In chapter 4, we see his authority over Satan. In chapters 5 to 7, we see his authority to proclaim truth. In chapter 8, we see his authority over sickness, over nature, over demons. In chapter 9, we see his authority to forgive sins. Who can forgive sins but God alone, they say. And also in chapter 9, we see his authority over death. As you read those chapters of Matthew, you cannot but come to the conclusion that Matthew, at least, thoroughly believed that Jesus was God. And yet the Bible never says it explicitly quite like that. Why is that? Well, perhaps it's because God knows that human language is totally inadequate to describe the mystery of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Secondly, perhaps it's old-fashioned Jewish reverence for the name of God. That name YHWH, as we have it in English, has no vowels in it. You can't pronounce it. And you should not say it. Such is the holiness of God. And I think that may be why the writers just draw short of that explicit statement. So who was he? Was he the Son of God? We certainly are not allowed to come with any nonsense about Jesus was just a moral teacher. Anyone who claimed to be what he did was either seriously delusional or a charlatan. In either case, you could hardly call him a good moral teacher. Or he was what he says he was, the very Son of God. So what do I think? I'm content to stay with Jesus' statement to the Sanhedrin. You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power of God.
His wounds